Podcast.
Is that like motorbike meets Chewbacca?
Maybe, yeah. These things just come out of me. I don't know their origin story.
Purrs and
it's like me trying to get in touch with my animal side.
Like In and Out.
We used to be
Jake Animal style.
I have a pretty hairy chest, so I mean.
So this is episode 77 of the Handsome Hockey Podcast.
Chest hair and hockey brought together.
What could be more of a perfect combination?
What could be more romantic?
Just a good Hasselhoff chest.
I'm thinking like even a little bit more fur. Like you'd take like John Stamos' hair and put it on somebody's chest.
You showed me that like Nate Schmidt meme. I bet he's got a hairy one.
It's unfortunate when the bald dude is also super furry.
Like, are we talking from experience here?
I'm not that furry.
I don't think you are either. I'm just joke needed to be made.
My body hair is really long, and that like it's not super thick. It's just long, and I don't know if I'm supposed to move back to the mother country and like become a Viking berserker, or if I'm just like doing it wrong. It's unfair too.
I think you're doing all right. I mean, I think we both have the issue where our body hair is like a refugee for our head hair follicles, a refugee camp for our head hair follicles.
Yeah, it was like, we need to go to warmer climes, quick to the butt crack.
Do you remember Crack Spackle?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That was such a good bit. You know who needs Crack Spackle this week? Kirill Kaprizov.
Yeah.
His legs went in two different directions, unfortunately for him.
Thus ending my fantasy hockey campaign and maybe any hopes of the Wild taking first in the Central.
Yeah, the Wild story this year has been wild, to say the least. Their trade deadline selling and acquisitions were interesting. Getting rid of Jordan Greenway once and for all. Kind
of like just doing him a solid because they weren't going to.
Yeah, because they weren't going to.
Yeah.
Saying it's not you, it's me.
Yeah.
But yeah, it sucks for him. He just made a unfortunate turn back move into the hairy chest of a 6'6" player.
Logan Stanley's a fucking dolphin, man.
He really is. Like, if you put him and like, I don't know, Jamie Alexiak on a line, holy shit.
There's also no body hair on that man from like mustache down.
He's like a swimmer.
Yeah, he's a dolphin.
Speaking of water creatures, the Kraken have announced that they're going to feature a indigenous-made logo patch next season on their jerseys. That's pretty sweet. They're partnering with the Muckleshoot Indian tribe to bring their first sweater patch onto the jersey, and it's the tribal seal for the group, and so it's really, really important to them, and it's really cool to see the Kraken get involved with the community like they are.
Yeah, the Kraken's ownership group seems to get it.
Yeah, they do.
And sure, like there's a ton of Amazon money in there, and that's gross. But I mean,
like, you could do worse.
They're gonna adorn the stadium with the dick rocket at some point. But like, I do think that at least in this instance, with all of the money, they're like, you know what? We could probably do good things.
They are doing some decent things with that money. Yeah, I think that's important to point out. I mean,
Jeff Bezos, not so much.
Well, like, also compare that Amazon money to like Pagula oil money, or not. No, wait. What the Pagulas get rich for? I'm thinking of
toilet cakes. I don't know.
Compare that to some of the oil money that's around. Like, I don't know.
Well, there's the sports washing of money in the Premier League and the major teams in European soccer, which is gross.
It'd be very funny if Saudi Arabians like bought a hockey team at some point. What is this?
The same dude who owns the Jacksonville Jaguars owns Fulham in the English Premier League.
Yeah, but
he put a statue of Michael Jackson outside their stadium.
Yeah,
because they were friends.
He's like a Western guy, though.
Yeah,
he's.
I know. I just thought that was funny. There's a Michael Jackson statue outside of Craven Cottage.
Oh yeah, I think Shad Khan is his name.
Yeah,
I think he's awesome. He sounds like a great owner, at least from what I know. All right, well,
and Fulham's good this year.
Departing from the.
Okay, so no more oil money jokes and no more references to aquatic animals, real or made up. I'm rolling my sleeves up because we're going to fight mid-episode.
I think
the only way
I sort of doubt that we can avoid those references, but we'll see. Another cool thing that the Kraken did that I'm super stoked for is they're doing a branded Tanev googly eye bobblehead, and I need it. I need it in my life right now.
Kind of shocking that it took this long.
You know, it's probably a lot of R&D that went into it. They needed to go through like a lot of rounds to make sure it just like had the right googly eye movement and, just had all the angles and really looked like him. I imagine this has been a very, very complicated and labor of love for the team.
They probably just made the bobbleheads watch like scatological porn and their eyes just naturally got that wide and they're like, finally, they're ready.
It's like a fucking...
I've made numerous scatological porn jokes in this because it's fucking gross.
Well, and I'm just imagining like, them widening the eyes by like showing them ultraviolence or something from... Clockwork Orange. Yeah, they're not finished until they see the ultraviolence and drink their milk.
Straight from the titty. That's a Clockwork Orange reference for people who don't know. Well, yeah, they get their milk from the titties in the milk bar at the beginning.
Okay.
Yeah,
I forgot about that detail.
Yeah. Just to ruminate for a second. That's gross. A milk bar?
I think that's the idea.
That's right? Disgusting.
Well, and milk is supposed to, symbolize innocence, right? In narratives. And
I'm caught up on the idea of like milk sitting in a tube as if it were on tap for long periods of time.
Well, I mean, if that tube is chilled.
Yeah, but how often do you have to clean those tap lines? Every day, I would think.
That's a good question.
The dynamics of it are what bother me. Milk is delicious, don't get me wrong, but it's never supposed to sit out.
No.
And you can't have a keg of milk. It's not carbonated.
I mean, you can have a keg of anything. You don't have to carbonate.
You can milk anything with nipples, Greg.
Yeah, you can. I was backpacking when a friend actually drank from a cow. And yeah, I don't think it was particularly pleasurable for him.
No.
He did it.
I've heard it's absolutely like disgusting out of the teat.
Shout out to Adam Sinison, Boy Scout extraordinaire. Yeah, we were backpacking in Philmont and I think someone made a joke and he was like, "No, I'm up for this." And like he did it to his credit and like it's perfectly sanitary to drink from a cow. I did not know that until then.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm glad he didn't die, but like, I mean, there was a kid in my high school who he gave a quarter if you'd eat gum out of a heating register. So like,
right, less. I would put drinking milk from a cow above that, but
yes,
yeah, that's the original, the OG milk tap.
Yeah, and you know what? I gotta say it hasn't aged well. Evolution has not been good to the milk tap. And A Clockwork Orange is also a movie I never need to see again.
It does kind of fuck you up.
Yeah.
Speaking of things that have not aged well, Jonathan Toews.
I was wondering where you're going with that, but well done.
Unfortunately, he is too sick from COVID and this immune response disorder that he has relative to COVID to get traded. Like, I feel bad for him. He's like the left behind in Chicago. Everyone else got traded. Patrick Kane traded. We'll get to that later. Literally, they traded anyone else that they could. McCabe, Max Domi, Jack fucking Johnson. Jonathan Toews is waking up from a coma to just a completely different team of children, none of which I've ever heard of.
None of which are as talented as the children they traded away last season. Go ahead.
Well, and unfortunately, yeah, he's too sick for career hospice, essentially.
Do you think this is karma for being a Stan Bowman stan?
being the
mouthpiece of denial?
Perhaps. I mean, there's a lot of karma going around in the Blackhawks, now between, this and not being able to get what they wanted for Patrick Kane and, really kind of showing the prospect cupboard now to be pretty bare. Whole lot of karma getting handed around there. The GM has done a decent job this year and just taking a lost season and turning it into a bunch of draft picks and
hopefully not getting Connor Bedard.
Yeah, I think
that's the
Gary's
last piece.
Not going to let him.
That's the last piece of the karma. Bill Daly will be mixing the balls and pull out the Blackhawks, and Gary will be in the back, and you'll just hear, "Nope, nope, do it again, Bill."
What? Yeah, I mean they're in second for the Bedard race. Money Puck has their odds at 14.8% to Columbus's 17.3%. Oh God, they're not going to let him go to Columbus either, are they?
No, he's going to Anaheim or Arizona.
And they can barely let him go to Arizona either. He's going to Anaheim.
Arizona keeps winning games, and I'm like, did you not get the assignment?
Yeah.
This is what you've lived for since the day Austin Matthews went to Toronto.
If only you could get him. The problem is that their home arena is too rockin' when those drunk college kids come a knocking. And you just can't help but win.
We're going to talk about this later, but do you see the PHF playoffs are going to be in Mullet Arena? Or the finals?
Yeah, in 2 fucking weeks.
Yeah.
Let's just talk about it now. It's so weird.
Yeah, that snuck up. I mean,
No, it didn't snuck up. They scheduled it like I schedule vacations with work. And work is like, what the fuck? Where are you going? And I'm like, yeah, sorry, I gotta go to Amsterdam. It just happened.
It's a thing.
And they're like, well, wait, we can't get there. How the hell do you want us to go watch your hockey?
Yeah. I would have, if I had 3 months, I would have strongly considered going to these games.
Yeah, especially in March in Portland, Oregon.
Yeah.
The desert sounds really fucking delectable right now.
Sucked here for 3 weeks.
Snow?
Actually, no, 4 weeks.
Yeah.
A whole month of suck.
We got a historical amount of snow. 11 whole inches.
This is so disappointing because there's a legit chance that I would have gone to this. It's Phoenix in March. Here's the kicker. I'm already going to be in San Mateo.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. That's even faster.
You can just take
I could get there in 45 minutes. But no arrival at the Mullet for me. And that's a real downer.
Yeah, it's not a good sign if you hear about the championship for your league by all of the media for your league complaining that they like can't really make it.
Yeah. It is in a season of very good moves by the PHF. We've talked about this numerous times. The PHF has historically never been able to get out of its own fucking way.
Mm-hmm.
And like all this season, like the Boyntons have shut the fuck up. They announced the new salary cap. They have 2-year contracts. Like the All-Star game was awesome.
They have a bunch of new fun players. It's been a really good year for the PHF. And then they're like, hey, championships next week.
Yeah. And then this. And
it's not like the worst thing in the world. It's just kind of another like.
When taken on its own, yeah, it's fine. When taken in context of the history of the PHF, you're like, a motherfucker.
And like what it probably does for the overall presentation and, media presence. Like, it's like, okay, come on. You probably could have done this better. I mean, that said, good location.
Yeah.
You could probably could have come close to filling the stadium if you would.
Yeah, it's like a 5K stadium, something like that.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, they could probably fill that. The problem is that it's got the same issues as the Frozen Four for men's college hockey. It's somewhere near none of the teams, and you didn't schedule it with enough time for people to actually get there.
Yeah.
Especially when a lot of the media that cover your sport aren't well paid. Right. They are doing this on stipends or just for the love of it.
Right. They're thinking about, like, can they fly Spirit or do you need to fly a real airline? Yeah, understand.
Yeah, like
middle class problems,
like Frontier.
That's just Spirit Plus.
Yeah, I know, that was the joke. I will say I flew Frontier once. It was bad, but my plane was Lobo the Gray Wolf, and that was pretty rad.
They named the plane.
Yeah, all their planes have
B-25.
All of their planes have the animals on the tail. And so, like, all of the animals are named, and mine was Lobo the Gray Wolf, and that was pretty fucking rad. Although they named it Lobo, so it's Wolf the Gray Wolf.
That's some good branding for you, but makes it seem like it's a World War II bomber with that on the front.
That would have made it for a much safer ride, I think, than my flight from Sky Harbor to St. Louis. Just because we briefly touched on PHF media, the Ice Garden 2.0 is out.
Yeah.
They have like a subscription, like they have like a behind the paywall.
They have the technology.
And it's been awesome. They have been crushing the content. Just incredible amount of work by some incredibly talented people. We say this probably pretty frequently, but also not enough. Read the Ice Garden if you give a shit about hockey in general, but women's hockey especially. Their coverage is beyond reproach. It's A1, the best. Just read their shit. But yeah, so you were saying.
So, you know who else is having a rough ride is Corey Perry's nuts. They were hit very forcefully by Tony hits the DeAngelo. In, I don't know what you call it, a scrum after the play, whatever. He just kind of like comes up to him and just gives him, as they say in the NFL, gives him the business. Right in the twig and berries. As they say, a good cup check, but well, that cup is coming at you forcefully too, and it doesn't feel very good.
Yeah, it's just another milestone in the legacy of this fucking waste of a human, Tony DeAngelo.
But also kind of funny because it sort of has a victimless crime in having Corey Perry as a victim. Because, I mean, Corey Perry has been a pest for so long. So it's kind of like the pot hitting the kettle in the nuts.
He's a notorious butthole, but at least he's not a historically racist butthole.
Right. And so
and at no point has his goalie ever punched him in the face.
I mean, other goalies probably have punched Corey Perry.
Oh, sure, but not his own.
But not his own. Reportedly what set Tony DeAngelo off is Corey Perry saying hockey is for everyone. No, just kidding.
That's good.
And also, like, why does Tony DeAngelo always look like he just got caught pawning his mother's jewelry? Like, his face, it's just like he always looks like he's getting away with something, whether it's punching your goalie or some questionable commentary or, running a random Twitter burner. And why Rangers fan 8765309. Tony DeAngelo he's a character. Like, his presence is interesting.
I love my favorite part of the scrum outside of Tony DeAngelo getting jumped by every member of the Lightning on the ice was that the Flyers saw it. James Van Riemsdyk legitimately looks right at this happening and skates away for a minute.
I don't want this.
And then the rest of this team finally goes, "Oh, hey, stop, get off of him," and like comes over as if they like really give a shit. But really, they're just like, hit him a couple more times. We just got to do this to save face.
Right. He's getting beat up like the bikers in the Bronx Tale bar scene.
It's like a scene from The Warriors that went horribly awry.
Yeah.
But like set to a Benny Hill theme.
On a more serious level, who's having a rough time is Spencer Knight, who's entered the NHL Player Assistance Program, NHLPA Player Assistance Program. The Panthers have clarified to say that it is not a substance abuse issue, which is interesting. Apparently the weight of a franchise was maybe too much for the guy. I don't know, because, well, they don't have much goaltending coming up in the next couple of years. But yeah, I hope he's doing okay. I hope he can come back and, take over the exceptional form he's been playing with for a while. I mean, he's one of the top goalie prospects in the league right now, and his team sorely needs him. They needed him this year.
Yeah, and what I really appreciate is we've seen this with Jacob Vrana and now Spencer Knight, is that players are finally kind of taking their mental health seriously. Mm-hmm. And not that they haven't in the past, but you have to think maybe this is kind of tied to Robin Lehner talking about his mental health struggles in the past, and others who have come out and bemoaned the fact that the mental health of players is not taken seriously enough. And we don't know what Spencer Knight is in there, and it's unfair for me to even say mental health on a certain level, but part of this program is getting you mentally ready to come back and play hockey, right?
Yeah, one would sort of assume that it's, he's a young player, he's a goalie. Goalie's a really tough mental position to play. And so, yeah, one kind of assumes it's a mental health something.
Yeah, and so I really hope that that it becomes a springboard for him and for the rest of the career, his career. We've seen Jacob Vrana, he kind of hung out in the AHL for a while, came back to the Red Wings, didn't play a lot and didn't play particularly well when he did play, but he tonight scored his first goal for the Blues. So hopefully that's a mark of him getting back on the right track. Evan and I were talking earlier about him having one of the best releases in the NHL, and he's a goal scorer, and so he's really hopefully in a good spot. And hopefully when Spencer Knight comes back, he is put in a place, in a position to succeed as well. We wish him nothing but the best for a speedy, but more importantly, full recovery to where he can get back to where he feels comfortable playing a game that he, we're guessing loves to play.
I mean, if I've been suffering through the Florida Panthers season, I might need some assistance myself. Like, that sounds like it's been a grueling endeavor with a lot of cylinders not firing correctly there, unfortunately.
Can you imagine seeing what had happened in Winnipeg the last 6 years and hiring Paul Maurice for that fun and gun team they have?
Yeah.
The guy who had the team with absurd amounts of forward talent,
right,
but could never get them into the playoffs or do damage in the playoffs. And Connor Hellebuck.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's our guy.
And the guy who quit, he said, this team needs a different direction. And then the team went out and took a straw poll and said, who can be our coach? And Adam Lowry says, hey, my dad can. And then
Daddy.
And then Adam Lowry's dad comes and coaches, and then they say, and then they're just better.
Yeah. And then they hired Rick Bowness, and he's, they had a really good, they're on a skid right now. They're still in the playoffs, but they had a really strong season up until about, 3 weeks ago. So
you could say they got a Rick bonus.
We hinted at earlier about the PHF finals. Were we recording then? I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay. And we've got. It's not like that's the only thing going on. If we kind of lumped these teams into the haves, the sort of haves, and the definitely have-nots. You got
how would Marx say that? The bourgeoisie, the intelligentsia, and
the proletariat. Yeah. Well, the Boston and Toronto are definitely the bourgeoisie.
Yeah. Holy fucking shit.
Just trading haymakers at the top of the PHF standings all season. Then you've got the intelligentsia, Minnesota and Connecticut, your other two playoff teams.
Chia boy.
Both of our favorites making the playoffs.
Whitecaps.
All get to get bludgeoned probably by one of the two juggernauts.
Like you and I, they are solidly middle class.
We're closer to lower class in this ever expanding fucking pricey hellhole that is Portland.
That's true.
And then you have your have-nots, the Rivs, the Force, and the Buttes.
The Force, they're an expansion team.
Yeah.
One can kind of give them a pass.
Yeah, if they could have scored goals this season, which I know is the point, but their goaltending and their defense was actually pretty solid. If there was a Jennings Award for the PHF, it might go to Montreal. Their goaltenders had a pretty stellar season. They just got bludgeoned by.
Can you clarify what the Jennings Award is for us mere mortals?
The Jennings Award goes to the NHL goaltending tandem that has the best season. I think it's usually for goals against, total goals against.
So Linus Ullmark and someone else.
Yeah. Hey, Swayman has had a fairly decent year.
Yeah, that other guy. No,
yeah,
I know.
But Ullmark is, clearly probably just sitting there warming his hands for the Vezina. Rubbing them on his lap like a boy about to get a treat at a parfait store. Parfait store? That's not a fucking thing. About to get a parfait at an ice cream store would be, or a Sunday shop.
Thing just in France.
Shop, SHOPPE. Shoppy. Anyways, Amanda Levier also was able to go a full season this year, had an injury plagued season last year, and is one of the big reasons why Minnesota bounced back into playoff contention. Had a wonderful season, would probably be up there for best goaltender if it weren't for Corinne Schrader existing and Boston being a fucking Death Star. You'll be shocked to learn this. Shocked, I tell you. But Loren Gabel leads the league in goals, assists, and thus points. Turns out adding really good hockey players to your already good hockey team is a good recipe for success.
Loren Gabel, who is a prized offseason acquisition.
Yeah. Loren had been out of the rotation for a little while. Former Patty Kazmaier Award winner, has been wrecking fools in the PHF this season and is probably a shoo-in for the MVP, I would imagine.
I mean, didn't the same thing sort of happen last year with Kennedy Marchment?
Yeah, the Whale were like, you know that lady who's been just throwing haymakers in Sweden for a couple of years? Let's see if she wants to come home. Turns out, yes. And also still very good this season. Mm-hmm. I think Kennedy Marchment's second in scoring, if I remember correctly. So it's not like Kennedy fell off at all. It's just Loren Gabel was like, hello.
Hi.
Hello.
Just happy to be here. It's an arms race, and that's good for the league. It's fun.
It 100% is. And
scoring is down, though, a little bit, because goaltending is just kind of...
There's some really good goaltending in the PHF.
Yeah. And defenses are getting more coaching time and getting more acclimated to, stopping these goal scorers, but it's not done by much. And, well, we're just getting more exciting players. So I don't think it's statistically relevant.
I think goaltending was the first arms race. Mm-hmm. And so now forwards need to kind of catch up to that. And with the explosion of the salary cap next year, that seems inevitable, right? There's so much more money to play with.
Speaking of inevitable, Boston.
Yeah.
I am inevitable.
Don't get me wrong. Toronto has been very good. Mm-hmm. We're probably, chances are, looking at a Boston-Toronto final down at Mullet Arena.
Sure looks like that.
But god damn is Boston good. Like, I don't even watch their games anymore because I know it's inevitable. Like, I'm like, oh, I'm gonna tune into like the Rivs and the Buttes instead because, like, yeah, they're both not very good, but at the same time, I know that there's a chance that I'll be surprised by the outcome. Whereas turning on Boston, you're just like, I
wonder if the Bruins are having the same issue. Like, how spoiled are fans of any sort of hockey?
They're the
Boston
worst
right now.
The worst.
I mean, like, Bruins are amazing. Pride are doing just as well. And then I'm sure the colleges are having a good time.
BU is fifth.
Nice.
I think Boston College is actually kind of just like fallen off a cliff. Yeah. And, there have been some other amazing things. Shannon Turner, who has played over 100 games for the Whale, is an original Connecticut Whale player, has had an incredible career, has left a long-standing mark on this league. Really, not only on the ice, but off the ice. She won the 2022 Foundation Award and uses her platform to raise awareness and money for mental health. I think the last 2 years has partnered with Active Minds. They're dedicated to promoting mental health among young adults, primarily. Turner played in her last home game on February 26th. And there was a huge send off for her out in Danbury. And it's unreal to, as people who have kind of come into the PHF in the last 3 years, like you and I have, to really, I think, fully understand the impact that Shannon Turner had as like one of the early kind of stars and stalwarts of the league. Mm-hmm. And in a league where there is a ton of transition, for Shannon Turner to play for 8 years with the Whale, especially when, like, you know, contracts and money was pretty low in those first couple of years, to make it into a time where, you know, she could theoretically make a living wage playing for the Connecticut Whale, kind of just shows her perseverance, her toughness, and her willingness to help grow an aspect of the game that really deserves it. And so we say farewell to just a monster of the PHF. And if they get around to having a Hall of Fame at some point, I think she's, possibly even a first ballot Hall of Famer for that league because of the impact that she's had.
Yeah, these types of people and performances are key to getting any kind of new league off the ground. And so hats off to her.
And then finally, in the other women's pseudo league, the PWHPA has officially announced that they have created a formal union. They are, I believe, still negotiating a CBA with their investors. However, that seems like a foregone conclusion at this point.
I can imagine this only happens in smoky back rooms.
They're eyeing a formal league starting this fall. And, the announcement for team locations and whatnot, there's been a ton of speculation.
One would assume it would be like the cities that they've been in for their Dream Gap tour, right?
Possibly. I think the big issue is that there's some of those cities aren't huge, right? They've played in some big cities, but some of them are like, small Canadian towns and whatnot. So
Branson, Missouri.
Yeah, right. We'll definitely have more to come on this as the PWHPA releases more, but stay tuned. Like, we could possibly see competing women's leagues next year, and we could finally see all of those absolute stars that participate in the PWHPA being on formal teams. One person who will not be on one of those formal teams is Brianna Decker. Brianna Decker, possibly the greatest American women's hockey player of all time, decided to retire. It's not super surprising. She had a horrific injury in the Olympics and hasn't, by like the small amount of reporting that has come up, like really hasn't felt comfortable back on that leg after it was broken. And so she has, in the time between playing, taken on a couple of responsibilities. She is working with the Whitecaps and with the PHF as kind of a player liaison role. And she also was named the associate head coach of the girls team at Shattuck St. Mary's.
Sounds like something Brianna Decker would do.
Yeah, exactly. Right. And so there's no way to say anything outside of the fact that she is quite possibly the best American hockey player, women's hockey player. And you know what? Fuck it. Like, you can put her stats and her history up against a lot of the best American male hockey players as well.
Yeah,
and I know
obviously Hockey Hall of Fame bound.
Yes, we had Hillary Knight, and we also had, and now we have Brianna Decker kind of hanging it up. And in some ways, it's cool because we get to see this next round of American talent kind of come up. But those are two of the people, along with like Kenneth Coyne Schofield and Amanda Kessel, who really started putting American women's hockey on the map as like this force. Like it was always, yeah, the Americans are good, but Canada. And now it's like, yeah, both of those two are good, but what about the rest of the world? And
well, and the U.S. has had Canada's number for many years.
Yeah. And part of the reason they had that was because of Hillary Knight and Brianna Decker and
group
like
of players.
This wave of just hyper talented American women who took that team into this like stratosphere where it's only really touchable by Canada at this point. And so we can't say that enough about Brianna Decker, 3-time Olympic medalist, Patty Kazmaier winner, one of the best college hockey players of all time.
Won an Olympic medal in the bed after she broke her leg in the final.
Yeah. So like she was, I think it was 2012 won the Patty Kazmaier at Wisconsin. She's just stupidly incredible, and losing Brianna Decker from that national team, even just in the player pool, is a huge hit. And it's going to take a while to really honestly replace her and Hillary Knight, honestly.
Yeah, because she has kind of gone out in the midst of her prime due to an injury.
Yeah.
A bit of a Bo Jackson exit.
Yeah, she's third all time in U.S. points for the U.S. national team, behind Hillary Knight and Cammie Granato. Really known for being just this hyper intense persona on the ice, and being kind of chill and goofy off of it, which is honestly like the best way to go about it. I think hard to really put into words the impact that losing Brianna Decker has, but hopefully in her future, with whether it's in coaching or administration in hockey, wherever she lands,
I'm sure she'll be dominant.
Yeah, I have a sneaky suspicion that wherever she lands throughout the rest of her career, both in and outside of hockey, will just be like the ace in the hole of whatever team she's coaching or administering. So congrats on a wonderful career. We're sorry it went out the way it did. For those of us who've been following the U.S. women's team for a long time, it's going to be hard to watch the stars and bars on the ice here coming forward without Hillary Knight and without Brianna Decker. So, thank you for everything, and congrats on a just almost unparalleled career.
Hear, hear.
Okay, now we can do the men.
So as I was saying earlier, I've been watching The Sopranos, and so
for like the 4th, 5th time through.
No, actually first. I've never watched The Sopranos, and so just thanks to Delta Airlines media choices, I just was like, well, let's start with it, and I don't know, I really enjoy it, but in my head, that's just New Jersey, like that. Like New Jersey is forever pre 9/11. And now like Timo Meyer has traveled back in time to the Tony Soprano era, getting traded from, modern California. It's got to be a shock.
Somebody is just going to be like, he gets off the plane and he like just kind of looks around to survey us, and somebody yells, "What you looking at? Hey, I'm standing here. What you looking at?" We haven't recorded since the end of the NHL trade deadline, which actually was just last Friday, so that's not too bad. The big fish is really obviously Timo Meyer. a lot of the bigger trades, and like we're not gonna be like, oh, this guy has a potential, blah, blah, blah. Like that's not our style. We're just gonna make jokes, especially about Jonathan Quick, who actually earned that name after his stay in Columbus. Timo Meier goes to New Jersey. Honestly, like the haul wasn't all that impressive. I think like it's a good trade, but I would have thought that Timo Meier would have garnered more, honestly.
Yeah, so they got
a bunch. There was
there was like a
that's why we're not going to review this trade, because there's like 30 dudes and like 12 picks,
and like these are some names.
Yeah,
too.
and so like we're not going to review any of these trades all that deeply. Like Patrick Kane, what they get for him? Pretty much nothing.
No, they get most importantly, a possible first round pick, but it got sold in different media conglomerates to the fans differently. So like the condition is, I think they have to make the
Eastern Conference Finals.
Okay. Yeah. And so in Chicago, it's a conditional first round pick. And in New York, it's a conditional second round pick.
Well, the New York media is bigger than the Chicago media, so they're right. And then there was like a fourth rounder as well.
As we know, might makes right, huh?
That's why the New York Post is a great newspaper and everybody should read it. I think the New York Post and Fox News are the only two media sources that I've fully banned my Google feed from giving me information from.
Do you think Patrick Kane sort of feels cocked by Vladimir Tarasenko? Because he got there first.
Maybe, but also I think Kane arriving pushed Tarasenko down a line, so maybe it kind of evened out.
That's interesting. Yeah, perhaps. Ryan O'Reilly trade happened a while ago. Noel Acciari and him go to Toronto. And then, unfortunately, Ryan O'Reilly had immediately hurts his banjo picking finger. And he's out for 4 weeks.
Yeah, we won't.
Country band is gonna suffer.
We won't see any new albums anytime soon.
No, it's a damn.
Maybe
shame.
he's using this time to write, though.
Yeah, right. Or just working on production.
Other big trades, I guess. Gavrikov was finally traded, not to Boston, but to LA. In that trade, it was Gavrikov and Korpisalo for Jonathan Quick and some picks. And this is like one of the shadier things I've ever seen. Like Jonathan Quick has spent his entire career in LA. He's like 3 months from his contract being up. And Jonathan Quick was traded to Columbus after a game in Winnipeg. He's told that he's traded and has to fly from Winnipeg to LA with the team, like like stewing and depressed. And like all the reports from that flight are that like there were barely dry eyes on the flight and everybody was just like some mix of depressed and pissed off.
Sure, but imagine the alternative, which is, okay, you take off now. Like, you know, that sucks for him, gave him that opportunity to fly home with the team. Yeah, it's not easy, but it's a business. He knows it. At some point, that team will retire his number, and he'll have,
a remarkably unattractive statue outside of the arena. Okay, Crypto.com arena.
That's a great side story. Yeah, statue alongside maybe Dustin Brown. And if you have a Dustin Brown statue, you have to have a fucking Anze Kopitar statue.
And a Jonathan Quick statue.
Like, absolutely. And why not? I know they have a ton of statues right outside this LA arena.
Yeah.
Allegedly. I've never been there. But
well, actually, just like
the people
like cryptocurrency, it's fake. So
it's a 3D rendering.
I'm surprised I didn't hear like a bro in my ear like, you don't know anything. Crypto is life. Well, Matt Damon says so.
In
bro, listen to me. It's just like, come in and buy some crypto with me, bro.
You just buy it in a store.
Yeah.
Come into this back alley store. I'll sell you some crypto.
Yeah. What did you hand me? This is a bag of Q-tips. No, that's crypto.
Same value.
They're both worth the same. That'll be $37,000. What? Jonathan Quick tonight actually 34 saves, gives up 3 goals and a victory for the Golden Knights over the Lightning. That's the second half of the story.
Good for him.
Is that Quick was a Columbus Blue Jacket for about 2 days, and reportedly GM Jarmo calls Jonathan Quick basically as soon as he gets off this flight from Winnipeg to LA and says, "Hey, I'm sorry. You were just like part of like a kind of like a make weight to make the money work. I want to do right by you. Give me a couple of days. I'm going to work on this." And then trades him to a legit contender in Vegas, who is a direct competitor with the Kings.
And needs his services badly. And I mean, initial impressions are he's going to go, "Oh, you try fuck on me?"
34 saves against the Lightning is nothing to fuck around about. And so I really hope that LA and Vegas play.
Yeah.
And Jonathan, awesome. Even if Jonathan Quick doesn't play in the series, but Vegas wins, fuck LA.
There's no way in hell that Vegas is only playing Logan Thompson in a series, or whoever their fucking goalie is right now.
Aiden Hill.
Yeah. No,
No, I think once they get to the playoffs, it's got to be Quick, right? The playoff pedigree, especially if he plays well down the stretch.
Maybe not every game, but like he's going to get games.
Yeah. And hopefully they're against LA.
Yeah, that would be some excellent poetic justice. I mean, to his credit, that was also sort of one of the storylines with Patrick Kane on his way out of Chicago was, okay, Tarasenko gets traded. Okay, there's all of this kind of pressure. And Patrick Kane's like, "Oh, I'm just going to score like 10 goals in 3 games."
Yeah.
And it's like, "Oh, okay."
Oh, so you've been sandbagging this entire fucking season. Cool.
Yeah. Right.
And then he could be like, "They told me they needed the first pick." Like, it was
suck
like,
hard for Bedard. Come on, man. That was the motto.
Well, if anybody knows about sucking hard, it's Patrick Kane. Anyways, also, there was kind of this wild flurry. So the Monday and Tuesday before the trade deadline, the Red Wings and Ottawa played a 2-game series that was effectively kind of like a play-in for the playoffs. Like, if you came out of that having won 2 games, you were kind of in the driver's seat for challenging for like the 7th or 8th spot. Ottawa beat the ever-living shit out of Detroit, both on the scoreboard and physically.
At one point, Brady Tkachuk tried to challenge your goalie to a fight.
Yeah, and I'm kind of surprised that he didn't just do it for funsies anyways.
Brady Tkachuk is amazing. I love him so much.
He looks like a humanoid thumb.
He looks like,
and I love him.
Looks like a fully grown Chucky doll.
He's a very strange looking man. But I love that he's in Ottawa, and I love that like him and Josh Norris just like go out drinking after games and sing karaoke.
Yeah,
it's great. Anyways, so the end result of the Red Wings getting just smoked out of the building by Ottawa in 2 straight games was Yzerman was like, "Fuck this shit." Traded Tyler Bertuzzi to Boston, got a first and a 4th back.
And boy, does he look like he belongs there.
Oh, I've told people like Tyler Bertuzzi is going to have a huge playoff. And he's going to get a huge contract from somebody because he's going to have like he'll have like 15 points in the playoffs and just be a fucking warrior the whole time.
He was so fresh on the team. He played games without any sort of tape on the top of his stick.
Tape or a butt end.
Right.
Which like just is driving hockey players nuts, or hockey fans. They're like, how do you play without a butt end? How do you I'm like,
it doesn't make sense to a lot of people, but to explain, a butt end does a lot in a modern carbon fiber hockey stick to like dampen the sort of like vibrations and tinniness of the puck on stick feel, in my opinion.
This is he needs that to feel alive.
Yeah,
because he's not playing next to his best boy Dylan Larkin anymore.
Or as I said, he's raw dogging it like he does with his immune system.
The Wings also traded Philip Hronek to Vancouver. Like, okay, so Vancouver trades Bo Horvat to the Islanders, and the big get from this is a first round pick that's lottery protected this year, but not in 2024, or top 15 protected. Mm-hmm. And so they then trade that pick and a second round pick to the Red Wings for Philip Hronek, who is having a very good year. And I think his like true ability is somewhere in between the years where he was playing like 26 minutes on a shit team and his play this year. I think he's somewhere in between there.
Yeah. But Steve Yzerman did it again.
Yeah. Like
he sold.
His whole life is Britney Spears' first hit. Oops, I did it again.
And I'll fucking
traded
do it again.
You fools. I fleeced all you fucks.
Yeah.
Ooh, baby. He's a fucking Jedi. But also evil. Like, and I love him. But the Red Wings now have 4 first round picks in the next 2 drafts. But that also might, so they have 2 this year, but if the Islanders slip out or fall into the top 15 picks, they get their pick next year, and they look like they're going to be terrible. So like Yzerman might have just scored like this absurd draft pick. The whole like victory speech for Vancouver in this trade, the Bo Horvat trade, was like that this pick of the Islanders might slip a ton and be a really low pick or high pick next year. And then they just traded it to the Red Wings for a very solid but not spectacular right shot defenseman.
Yep.
And so Boston, incredible juggernaut this year, has a ton of uncertainty on their roster. As of right now, their best center signed for next year is Pavel Zacha, which is a fine player for your third line.
That said, I mean, they have loaded up in the trade deadline.
But like their pick might be really shitty when the Red Wings get it. So Yzerman was like, "Hey, I'm gonna rob you." like he's just like slapping the palm of his hand with the back of his other hand, like, "Give me all your first round picks that might be dog shit later. I don't know."
Right. And the broadcast and all of our Vancouver friends are like, "Oh no, what is you doing?"
The same song and fucking dance that Vancouver has been doing for 10 years now. It's great.
Back to more Boston Death Star. They acquired Dmitry Orlov and Garnet Hathaway from the Capitals in a 3-team trade.
Is a great fucking trade.
Yeah, brilliant for them. I think both dudes have already scored.
Yeah. Orlov, I think, already has like half as many goals as he had all season in like 5 games.
And not only that,
which isn't a lot of goals, but like
they dumped Craig Smith, who's a real person and not just like John Doe. They dumped his fat contract.
Yeah, it's Don Sweeney doesn't know how to draft, but he can trade like a motherfucker. So
And
if
he
they could
knows-
just get somebody else to run the draft, they'd be great.
Yeah, he knows how to trade a draft pick. That's for sure.
Hey, you've only got one Patrice Bergeron. They did lose tonight to Edmonton, but whatever. They're a fucking machine.
They are cruising, to say the least.
I think that was their first loss in like 8 games.
Mont Girl Summer coming to New York near you. I'm sure he's going to be,
Again.
Yeah. Unleashed on Brooklyn again. I don't know.
I really love that he doesn't re-sign with the Rangers, and the Rangers collective fan base goes, the fuck? Why? No, he was amazing. We love him. He signs in Ottawa, and all year Rangers fans were talking about, how do we trade for Tyler Mott? And then it happens, and they didn't really need to give up much. So
that gallon of apple juice is coming home.
Yeah, he's a good Michigan boy, so you leave him alone.
Oh, he's great. I love him.
Oh, like the fact that Tyler Mott is always on the edge of being fantasy relevant despite being a 4th line dude makes me so happy.
The Colorado Avalanche have had a lot of things this year, but they've not had their banana pancakes. And so they traded for Jack Johnson back.
Yeah, in like that and Lars Eller were like their only moves, which I think shows the amount of confidence that Joe Sakic has in his roster. Mm-hmm. They're going to get Landeskog back at some point. They haven't been healthy all year.
No.
Actually, like right now is the healthiest they've been, and their captain still hasn't played a game all season. I can't really fault him in that. Like, you've got just this otherworldly talented team that just kind of needs to be healthy enough to play together, and you should be fine.
You look back at your championship roster and you're like, I want this one mascot defenseman. He must be on pucks. They're like, this guy must be the nicest fucking guy.
Nazem Kadri? No.
No, we need Jack.
We
Johnson.
need Jack Johnson.
One move that is criticized and has been criticized and will probably be criticized. Tampa Bay acquired Tanner Jeannot from Nashville for a veritable king's ransom.
A Spanish armada of picks.
Yeah. What?
And when they asked Julian Breezewa about it, he effectively said, picks don't matter to championship caliber teams. Yeah, and I was like, he's fucking right.
He fucking memed up and said, I'll do it again, motherfucker.
The dude is the king of finding 3rd line talent and I'm not saying that in a disrespectful way. I'm saying, like, look at who he's picked up in the past, like Blake Coleman,
Brandon Hagel,
Nick Paul, now Tanner Jeannot, and like he brings in these guys on reasonable contracts because he very smartly says, you know what, my core is the tits, so we just got to find people who are cheaper than they should be to fill out those bottom lines. And he paid a lot of picks for Brandon Hagel last year. He played a ton of picks for Tanner Jeannot this year. But you know what Tanner Jeannot has done?
Fought somebody already.
Scored points.
Yeah, he's really good. And I am an open Tanner Jeannot truther. I think he's a really, really talented player and will excel on that team and get them the grit that they want for when Corey Perry's gone. They were strategic in trading for Jeannot and Brandon Hagel type guys.
Yeah.
The good, quick, gritty, talented players.
Absolutely. And in 6 games with Tampa so far, he has 3 assists, 2 fights, and 23 hits.
Hell yeah.
Including 9 tonight.
9 hits?
9 hits. 2.5 fantasy points based off of 9 hits and 1 block.
Wow.
That's it. No goals, no assists, no shots. No stats, just vibes. Elbows,
that's
hips, and vibes.
Big winner of the trade deadline. Noted porn star chaser Michael Del Zotto traded to the Ducks.
He's gonna be in LA,
right?
Perfect.
Headed towards Porn Valley, baby.
Like Jenna Jameson is probably still around and just waiting for a Michael Delzato to like hang out.
I feel like he's probably going after younger talent.
Speaking of the Ducks, Trevor Zegras, he just does silly things. Like you just go, that was silly and amazing, and I'm very happy for him. I think we've talked about this before, but Trevor Zegras just looks like he's having a great fucking time all the time
on a bad team, and allegedly is him and Mason McTavish are texting Connor Bedard all the time,
which is funny because like it's not even remotely in their hands. Like who gets Connor Bedard?
Yeah, they're just they're manifesting,
and also they're not much older than him.
No, they really aren't. Another interesting trade, Rasmus Sandin off the Leafs to Washington. Washington, obvious sellers, but acquiring this decent piece of talent. Toronto just finally kind of giving up on the dude.
It wasn't so much. I think it was more Toronto kind of doing him a solid.
Or just saying we can't re-sign you too.
Yeah. The bummer here was that he got traded in the middle of practice. And
what?
Yeah, they were in the middle of practice and some staffer came out and had to be like, hey, Rasmus, come with us. And they made him do this like walk of shame around the rink while the rest of the team continues practicing.
That has to be planned.
It's fucking brutal.
Well, and I mean, that fits with how they fucking traded him in terms of ice time and positioning. So
yeah,
they obviously didn't like the dude. Hope he works out okay better.
Yeah, I think he's in a place now where he will actually get to play. He's had a goal and 4 assists in 3 games so far. So and he's working the power play. Like he's exactly the type of player that Washington needs, as they're not going to rebuild, they're going to reload, sort of thing. They have a shit ton of cap space. Cap space. I hate my whole life.
That's Pulitzer worthy.
They have a ton of cap space, so they can honestly retool quite a bit this offseason.
To most importantly, go for Alex Ovechkin's
second cup. Yeah.
Alex Ovechkin's goal record.
As long as Ovechkin's there, they're not going to tank. But this year they noticed, hey, we don't really have it. So they have so many expiring contracts. Let's trade some of our assets, get some draft capital. And, they're taking a swing on Rasmus Sandin, who never got a fair shake in Toronto and might be really solid. So,
and Toronto is taking Eric Gustafsson, all offense defenseman, no defense defenseman.
It's very silly.
If you want a good
ish
limited quarterback of your power play, all right,
then you take Morgan Riley.
Yeah, I kind of forgot he was still in the league. Carolina was interesting at the deadline, acquiring Jesse Puljujarvi and Shane Gostisbehere.
Mm-hmm.
I think that those are smart and interesting moves.
Yeah, they're kind of just like really they're subtle.
Mm-hmm.
Subtle. Yeah, the Canes don't often trade. They don't believe in trading draft assets for rentals.
Mm-hmm.
So Puljujarvi is a wild card, and they got him for relatively cheap.
He's a rehab project.
And Gostisbehere, Philadelphia basically just like sold their soul to Arizona to get him out of there, and he's done nothing but play really well in Arizona.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's honestly, it's a very good pickup for the Canes and great for Arizona to like get something back for somebody that they got something back for. Like, I forget what that original trade was. Let me look it up actually.
No, it was insane because they re-signed Gostisbehere after his insane start to his career, and then he never lived up to that in Philly.
It was Gostisbehere, a second, and a seventh for future considerations.
Our boy.
And then Carolina turned that into a 3rd round pick and didn't keep any salary.
Jesus. Herbert Walker Christ. What?
It's so good.
How is Philly not just like...
And it's not like his...
set fire to the Flyers building.
Chuck Fletcher needs to be summarily dismissed. Like,
I mean, it's coming
with a
soon.
pickaxe.
It's just the problem is it's taken too long. Like, he did not make a significant trade at the trade deadline. They did not get rid of fucking James Van Riemsdyk. They didn't get rid of Kevin Hayes. They didn't get rid of
anybody. The
Farabee. They get rid of fucking... They had people that were interesting. They didn't get rid of Provorov.
And apparently there was a pseudo deal in place with the Wings, and with like 10 minutes to go in the deadline, they were like, we're out for JVR. Because they were trying to make another...
like, JK bitch.
Yeah. They were trying to make another trade to make room for JVR, and then just were like, we're good. Bye.
We don't need a gigantic overweight power forward.
Chuck Fletcher was like, yeah, we didn't receive any good offers for you. And it's like, shop him around, you fucking loser. There are so many bad GMs in the NHL, and you might be the worst.
Yeah, there are so many other teams that didn't want to wear their pride jerseys that you could have traded Ian Provorov to.
Yeah, like Minnesota.
They decided today, we're just not going to have our pride jerseys that we promised you guys.
Yeah, because we're really big buttholes.
I mean,
yeah.
If we're going to expect it of anybody, it would be the team that had like a Blue Lives Matter night.
There is that.
So, I mean, I just feel bad for like Matt Dumba. And Jared Spurgeon and like Ryan Reeves.
John Merrill, who is like a hardcore ally for LGBTQ plus folks, like works him and his wife work hand in hand with tons of LGBTQ plus charities and support groups. And apparently the team was like, no. And
in contrast, I don't know if you heard about this, but Connor Murphy made a nice move and came out and said, so we're going to fucking do this.
Yeah.
Like, we better be wearing these pride jerseys for our warm up.
And also, I don't understand what the big deal is. Wear the jersey. It was just like, yeah, get him, Connor.
Yeah. You know,
best Connor in the NHL.
In a lost season for the Blackhawks, there are a couple of, bright moments, and this is one of them. Go Connor Murphy. I mean, he's been outspoken in novel ways before. I can't remember what he's said, but he's kind of he's a funny dude.
Yeah, and you know, I appreciate him for just making light of the situation and calling out bullshit where he sees it. And finally,
I was going to say, speaking of the Blackhawks, they acquired Nikita Zaitsev for our boy. Future considerations.
I love that Ottawa did that and as a make weight to, and then just picked up Jacob Chychrun for nothing. What a waste of an asset on Bill Armstrong's watch out there in the desert. Like,
yeah, right. And they signed Zaitsev for a lot of money back in the day. Chychrun, finally free of Arizona, can't be happier, even though he's probably going to miss the playoffs again.
I don't know, man. Ottawa's been sort of on a heater. They've got a lot of work
odds
to do.
Are 19% on Money Puck.
Yeah, but their odds at the start of last week were like 2.5%.
Sure.
Yeah.
I hope so. I hope so for
absolutely.
Jacob Chychrun.
I hope so.
And Claude Giroux and like all of these other players that, you know, they want to believe. Like we talked about, I think last week, the letter of Rasmus Dahlin wrote to Buffalo, and it's like, I wonder who's writing that letter in Ottawa, because they're starting to believe.
It's got to be multilingual.
That's the truth.
You know who I'm pretty sure isn't multilingual, but is still a perfect boy.
Who?
Dylan Larkin.
You don't think he's multilingual?
If he had spent 4 years at U of M, he would be, because you're required to take 4 years of a language. But he only spent 1 year at U of M, so I'm guessing not. But he is much richer as of recent signings. The gut punch was he signed his contract, and then Yzerman traded his best friend, Tyler Bertuzzi. His other best friend, because he'd already traded his other best friend, Anthony Mantha. But
he took it out in TJ Oshie's face.
Yeah, well,
and that's not how the timing worked.
That was before, yeah. He's that
was just a convenient joke.
This is premeditated.
I knew something bad was gonna happen.
And all the pictures were of like Dylan signing the contract in his kitchen with Steve Yzerman, and it's like, yeah, if Yzerman knocks, you open the fucking door. And like you can just imagine like Yzerman not even saying anything, just like showing up and being like, and just handing him a 30 page contract and just being like, sign it. It's more than we wanted. And Larkin's like, okay.
And what were the terms?
8 by 8.75. So,
which, I mean,
a little bit less than I anticipated, somewhere a little bit north of 9. I think Larkin probably got less by staying in Detroit than he would have on the open market. But he still also got a very good deal.
And his hometown boys from there. He like
Waterford, Michigan. He's never played hockey outside of the state of Michigan.
Yeah, that's insane. Yeah. Like, I hope he never has to.
Yeah, fuck your state of hockey, Minnesota. Perfect baby Dylan Larkin says otherwise.
That's such an amazingly pure thing in such a sad world.
Yeah. So Dylan Larkin, captain forever. He's gonna lead the Red Wings to their next Stanley Cup.
Oh, captain, my captain.
How many rings do you have? The answer for Dylan Larkin, we'll say one. I'll say one.
I'd put money on that.
I'd say he wins a cup.
What's the
with the Wings
over under 0.5 Stanley Cups?
No, it's over under 0.99 Stanley Cups.
Bet you can't win just one.
It's like the Pringles of of Trophy World. Is that it?
Yeah, fuck it.
I think that's it. We've been at this for a while.
We put in a good turn.
I'm tired.
I am tired.
Yeah, you especially have had a long week. I've just had a long week because work is ridiculous.
Jet lag is one hell of a drug, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, with that, if you couldn't tell, this episode is over. We thank you so much for listening to us here at the Handsome Hockey Podcast. We have a lot of fun doing this, despite Evan looking like he's in constant discomfort across the table from me.
And I'm just getting a massage in, man.
Yeah, it's like thankfully it's not a happy finish or happy ending type of massage. It's more of a like, no, I really hurt kind of massage, or
you can't see under the table,
or I spent 12 hours on a plane type of massage.
It was only 10. Actually, that's a direct flight.
Oh. That's beautiful.
Yeah, it was all right. I mean, I kind of messed that up, but it's fine.
Yeah.
Because you could I got the window seat, and then the real move is to get the inside aisle, because there's the 4 seats on the inside, and it's kind of like a sparse flight. And so you could get a bed.
Nice.
But,
well,
and I had an empty seat picked out, but then I watched too many episodes of The Sopranos,
and someone
took it.
It's fucking amateur hour over here.
I know. I do it to myself.
Yeah, you're an embarrassment.
I am.
Speaking of embarrassments, you can find us all over the internet at handsomehockey.com, Handsome Hockey Podcast on Instagram, at Handsome Hockey on Twitter, or handsomehockeypod@gmail.com. We have a Facebook page and a YouTube page. They are updated sparsely, but they're there.
I updated the YouTube page. That's why it's got an exclamation point.
Oh, oh, hey, shows how much attention I'm paying.
Yeah. We already have views on our, I don't know, 15 back videos that I just uploaded.
Hooray! Good job, YouTube viewers who are probably kind of they're not talking about handsome people at all.
Mm-hmm.
That's why it's ironic, don't you think?
It's like rain on your wedding day.
Yeah. Well, you know what? It actually, most of the Western world was on fire on my wedding day. So we could have used some rain. Anyways. All right. Well, thank you so much for listening, folks. We're going to go to bed. It's like 9:55 and it's like screaming bedtime at me. So have a great day. Have a great night. Have a great middle of your day. Whatever the fuck you're doing when you listen to this, have a great one of it and stay handsome, everybody.
Restez beau, tout le monde.